Now, Sports Talk with Brodes. Here's Hunter Brody.
What is going on, everyone? The Philadelphia 76ers go into Phoenix and failed. And it wasn't pretty, and things are ugly. And now you can see that there is a common theme with this basketball team. Three things really stood out to me. When I look at the downfall of the Sixers in this specific game, it starts with the flaws on the bench. And I just feel that there's no way that Shake Milton is the difference in this team actually looking reasonable going to the bench and this team looking like an absolute disaster. There's something in between here, so I am shocked and stunned that they fell off to this level where in the first quarter, the Sixers I thought played strong defensively. They had a nice effort, but when the starters needed to go to the bench, well, here comes a 7-0 push by the Suns. And at that time, the impact didn't seem so strong because there were two buckets by the Sixers to finish out the quarter where it was like, okay, so the Suns did make a 7-0 push, but at least the Sixers made some noise to close out the quarter stronger than it could have been. At the third quarter mark, it was late third, mid-late third, what ended up happening? The Sixers starters needed a rest. They needed a break. Well, essentially, that was when the dagger really started to happen. Because here comes everybody in the game who's not a starter, and before you knew it, it was out of reach. How did it go from, okay, Shake Milton's there, you need an upgrade, he's not going to be your serious sixth man, at least that's how I interpret it, and I still feel that way, to you are a mess. You can't operate at all. Well, when Tyrese Maxey is the only guy out there that can do some sort of shot creation, it's really hard. He's a rookie. He's young. There's going to be growing pains, as you see when he does get his limited time. You're asking for this guy to do a lot. But I really don't believe Shake Milton is that special and calming everything down that much that this team gets destroyed and mollywopped the second Ben, Joel, Seth Curry hits the bench. It's too much of an extreme, in my opinion. Problem number 2, 6 3-pointers were made. 2 of them from Danny Green. Seth Curry made 1. Now, he should have made 2. He had his foot on the line in the corner. It should have been 2, but it was 1. Tobias Harris, 0 and 0 attempts, which bothers me. In what universe? He finished 7-9 from the field with 18 points, which is very efficient, but I would have liked to see Tobias Harris get up more shots and get up more three-point shots. How do you have 0, Tobias? You're one of the stronger three-point shooters on this team, specifically in transition, catch and shoot. That has been something that has been a jump in your game this season, that has benefited this team, that has helped this team out, and it has helped this team be who they have become this year. How do you have 0? It's so hard for me to comprehend it. So between Tobias, Seth, and Furkan Korkmaz, you had 1 shot made behind the arc. How do you win a basketball game if that is the case? The answer is you don't. As you saw, you don't. You have Chris Paul giving you an outstanding game where he's making these fadeaway mid-range jumpers throughout as he's sailing to the right. It sort of looked like, not the same exact way, but it reminded me of J.J. Redick when he would fade towards the out of bounds to his right as he would take the smooth jumper. Chris Paul did that, and, oh, by the way, he was making plays happen for his teammates, and he was delivering in that aspect, in that part of the game as well, which is not surprising. The guy's a future Hall of Famer who can do it with his damn eyes closed. So you had him, you had Devin Booker drop 36 points. The third quarter for him was sensational. He could score whenever he wanted to. Now, I hated that the dribble penetration was too easy. A lot of easy buckets for him. He made tough ones too, though. I remember specifically Ben Simmons out by the perimeter on the right side of the floor, and Ben was all over him, suffocating him, taking away so much space. And it was almost as if Ben Simmons was going to steal the rock right from his hands, but Devin Booker keeps it in possession, hits a step back right in his face, and there was some chirping involved. Probably about Kendall Jenner, right? I would imagine that Kendall Jenner was watching that game getting aroused, getting horny, just thinking, hey, whoever wins this game, yeah, they get me on Valentine's Day, Sunday. Yeah, they get me to have some fun under the sheets, and that's why Devin Booker exploded the way that he did. That's why Ben Simmons came out guns blazing early on, scoring 16 points. But what happened in the second? And that's my third takeaway of the game. Ben Simmons showed you the aggressive Ben Simmons that he can be. 16 points, downhill, taking over, not being stopped, not allowing anyone to get in his way. My man gets 2 points in the second half, which happened with 6 minutes to go in the fourth quarter at the free throw line. Woohoo, he made his free throws in that spot. Not good enough, Ben. Now, he finished 6 of 9 from the line. I'm not going to act as if getting to the line big picture in the game isn't something that I notice. Of course I do. Free throws with Ben is always going to be on my mind. That's always something that I'm really diving heavy into because that's an area that he needs to grow and improve on. He needs to improve on the free throws. How do you go from that unbelievable performance where you really did take over everything to, you know what? I don't really know if I feel like I did what I needed to. I put my fingerprints on this game early. I don't need to do it again. I did everything I needed to. I showed what I could do. As long as I show what I can do, then I can easily take a step back. It's so frustrating. It really is. There's no way that you should be satisfied with that game out of Ben. It should annoy you even more that he shows you what is in the grasp of his top of his game, and somehow, some way, it goes away. Why? It's a mentality thing. Who's stopping him on the other side? Tell me, please, who? No one! Not a damn soul! There's not one individual in a Phoenix Suns uniform who can stop Ben Simmons. So why does it go in the other direction after pouncing the way that he did in the first half? And I'm so upset with myself that I didn't touch on this after that Portland Trailblazers game. But I think a lot of it had to do with it was 1 a.m., 1:30 a.m. after the game since it was a 10 o'clock start. And because I was so excited to jump on right after the game, but I was also so tired, so there was a mix of emotions, so many different feelings happening. I didn't get a real assessment on that last play. I just know that it didn't work and Doc Rivers wasn't happy after the game. So that's what I saw afterwards, and it was so damn early in the morning, if you will. I guess you could say late at night that I wanted to get this done and I wanted to talk about it. But as the days went on, I was able to sit down and really break down what happened on that final play. Ben Simmons was outrageously good against the Portland Trailblazers. But his one flaw was a huge reason why that last play didn't work. When you are an inbounder in basketball, what do people say all the time who are defending that possession? Watch out for the inbounder. Watch out for the inbounder. He might get that ball back because one of your scariest weapons inbounds the ball, and then they try and give it back to him, and then they can operate and get into the set that the team wanted to do. There wasn't one person even relatively close to Ben Simmons and the area of Ben Simmons because they flat out disrespected him, knowing that there's no way that he would do anything with the basketball, anything lethal with the basketball if he got it back. Why? Because he can't shoot. So why was there a jumble in the mix when it came to around that free throw line where there was a turnover? And that's another thing. That was his only turnover. It wasn't as if he was having all these problems keeping the ball in the Sixers' possession. Once again, he was outrageously successful against the Portland Trailblazers. But that one flaw, that one problem in his game that I am so worried about was why you couldn't execute that play. Now, to play the other side, Doc Rivers knows that, so maybe they don't try that play moving forward, seeing how the other team elected to defend Ben Simmons. It also limits what you can do, though. Now it's okay. Ben Simmons might not even be able to be the inbounder. Now you have to go in a whole different direction. Now you got to mess everything up. Now you got to try all these other options when you should be able to use Ben Simmons as the guy making the pass out of bounds. It shouldn't be this way. So you can't pretend like that is not something that costed this team a game. It did. It literally did. Go back and watch the play and see how it all developed. You can watch all the Portland defenders essentially laughing in Ben Simmons' face, not actually, not physically, but by the way that they defended on that possession. Of course they did. Who needs to be up and respect Ben Simmons? No one! I didn't like the way that Ben Simmons was used defensively at times, to be honest with you. So, Danny Green was on Devin Booker. And that's going to be a problem. That's going to cause some issues. Devin Booker is going to be able to score and get a lot of points, which he did. No surprise. I don't expect Danny Green to shut down Devin Booker to this wild level, to the point where Devin Booker is afraid of Danny Green and he's unable to get separation. No, I expect Devin Booker to score the amount of points that he did, because that's a matchup where Devin Booker can score at a lot of different spots on the floor, whether it's shooting, whether it's driving, whether it's creating separation on his own. He can do it at will against Danny Green. I would like Ben Simmons on Devin Booker, but I understand that Chris Paul is also out there. So you need to pick and choose your poison, if you will. You have to pick your poison. I get it if Chris Paul is being defended by Ben Simmons. I can get behind that logic. What I can understand is when Chris Paul isn't out there and Payne is being defended by Ben Simmons while Danny Green is trying to stick Devin Booker. Now, Doc Rivers likes to go down this philosophy of, let's save Ben Simmons for when we need him. Let's make sure that we keep his energy bottled up so when the game gets later into it and when time moves forward, you can put your elite defender, Ben Simmons, on their best guy. But guess what? That can still cost you. While I can see what he's thinking, I don't support it all the time. Put Ben on Devin Booker. If Chris Paul's not out there, why is he guarding Payne? What's the mentality there? Are you afraid of Payne? Do you think he's going to be a walking bucket for a stretch of time? Ben Simmons is a guy who, it's not like Joel Embiid in the past where you really had to limit his volume, where you really need to worry about his conditioning. Ben Simmons is a motor. The guy is out there full effort constantly, and he never seems to get tired. He is able to run around with the best defensively throughout a 48-minute game with ease for the most part. It would be different if it's a guy that has conditioning issues, that is a big body that breaks down, like we've seen out of Joel Embiid in years past, but that is not the case here. So I really did not like the way that he was used. Chris Paul, 18 and 10. Devin Booker, 36. How about Dario Charich defending Joel Embiid? Joel Embiid finished with 35, and constantly he would get to his areas and knock them down. Joel Embiid did his job. There's only so much that you can demand out of Embiid. And I thought Mark Zumov said something so perfect on the broadcast. Those shots that Joel Embiid takes now from the mid-range, those are layups. You expect them. You expect them the way that you expect someone 1 inch from the basket kisses it off the glass. He gets to his spot, and it's off the bounce. A 7-footer off the dribble. There's normal guards that can't shoot this well off of the dribble. And it's so fluid. That's what I love about it. That's the beauty of his game. It's so damn fluid. It's all in one motion. There's so much confidence. I mean, he was killer. He was doing step-back threes. He was facing... Every game, I say the same damn thing about him. I bring up how he scored. Well, he faced up his defender, he backed him down, and then he got to where he wanted and put it off the glass, or he dunked it. But getting back to Dario Charich, I thought it was so funny that he was the matchup. You saw the spinorama slam right into his face. You saw some yapping back and forth between Embiid and Charich as well. And as much as you laughed that was ever a defensive assignment for Charich, when you look at his stat sheet after the game, 20 minutes plus 18 and 15 points for the homie. So as laughable as it is that he had to go up against a 7-footer in Joel Embiid, the stat line afterwards said, hey, guess what? I had a nice night at the office, and their entire bench as a whole completely annihilated everybody on the Sixers bench, whether it was Mike Scott coming back or Dwight Howard and this minor minutes that he gets. The Dwight Howard thing, I don't want to say it fascinates me, but what the hell is this? I don't know. I don't know how to define it. If you ask me, what is this Dwight Howard experiment? I don't know. He fouls so much. It's ugly at times. It's also very energetic at times. Veteran leader that helps out this team, but I think it looks foolish out there too. I don't know if I can really believe that Dwight Howard is that piece, but when it gets to crunch time and when it gets to meaningful basketball games, Embiid's going to be logging in high 30s. So I'm not asking for much. But those tiny minutes that I'm asking for, I think it's got to be better than what Dwight Howard gives us throughout these games at times. I mean, Dwight Howard, it's wonky. Is that the word to define it? Wonky? Bonkers? Outrageous? Unique? It's something, okay? It's something. I can't believe Ben Simmons had 16 points in the first half and finished with the 2 points in the second. I just can't believe it. How does that not bother people? Here's what I'll say. The Sixers heading into this, I knew it was going to be a really tough road trip. There are other good teams out there. They're now 1-2. If they beat Utah to finish 2-2 on the road, I will accept it. Might not be the happiest person in the world, but I will at least admit that, okay, you go on the road, you leave the Wells Fargo Center, you go to the West Coast, you play talented teams. You do see the Suns know how to win. They're not a dumpster fire. They have good talent. They're 16-9 on this season for a reason. You play Utah, who is the hottest team in the NBA, the best in the Western Conference. So if you finish that off 2-2, okay, I could live with it. 1-3, it's disappointing for sure. But I wonder if they use that as a wake-up call. Yo, fellas, you thought you were better than what you were. You're not. There's other great teams out there. There's other strong squads that can compete, that can battle with you. If you're not going to be able to deliver, guess what? Players can hang. Devin Booker can score. Chris Paul, he's been doing this for 3,000 years. If you're not willing to defend and compete, well, you're going to get shredded. And Doc Rivers, after the game, he brought up the fact that the Suns shot 61% from the field. Because everyone's concerned about offense with the bench and scoring droughts at times. He goes, yo! Look at how this team just shredded us defensively. The other team scored offensively. You got shredded defensively. Look at that. I'll surface this around, though, by saying this team is not a bad defensive team. Because they have this type of outing and because there are problems at times with dribble penetration. When this team dials in and they look around and go, hey, fellas, it's time. It's time to put on the clamps. They're elite. They are an elite defensive team. They weren't willing to be tonight, which I understand why that's annoying. I would personally chalk that up to 1 of 82, but at times I can see why that's an answer that's unacceptable. I just know deep down that this team defensively, they are at the top Ben Simmons, as much as I ridicule him and rip him into a million pieces and destroy him over and over and over again because he deserves it, because he's one of the most stressful players to watch in NBA history, because it's so up and down and it's so explosive one point and it's so disgusting in others, his defense is so special. I don't know if there's a defender in the history of the game that can play the way that he plays. 1 through 5. All the big men that rim protect that are great in their areas of the floor, they get a lot of praise and they win Defensive Player of the Years because, well, that's how this game works. You have a lot of block shots, and that translates to showing how strong you are in the paint, and then that results in winning that Defensive Player of the Year trophy. Ben Simmons is so tremendous. The way that he keeps up with guys that he shouldn't be able to keep up with. He's 6'10". He's big. He's way bigger than these guards. But the way that he dials in and he moves laterally. You watch his movements laterally. It's unbelievable. It's so unreal. It's crazy good. The defense, I thought it was good in years past. It has taken a leap. So that's why when the extreme haters of Ben say that he hasn't gotten better at all, well, that's not true. He has. He hasn't made any sort of improvement in the one spot that will cost this team down the road, which is why we get on him the way that we do. But defensively, it has improved. And there are other areas. I think the post-up of Ben, you've seen some different looks, whether it's his baby hook or just maybe it's just his confidence with the baby hook, but he's more into using it, and he's establishing himself in the post more. And I also think that there's players cutting off of that very well also. Whether it's someone going backdoor, and here's Ben waiting with his patience, waiting, facilitating the game from the post-up position, and once he gets himself in the block, he sees and waits for Danny to cut, and he'll make a nice bounce pass, or he'll wait for someone to try and double team him, and he'll kick it out. There is nice play in his patience in the post, and when he gets these players wide open, yeah, there's something to that. I'm fully aware, and I am acknowledging that. And I am appreciating his defense more than anyone. There are moments where I watch his game and I see him on that side of the floor and I am grinning from ear to ear with excitement and joy, knowing that he takes so much pride in that area. If you don't, look, you can teach other parts of this game. Defense is either you have it or you don't. You want to do it or you don't want to do it. You're lazy on that end or you're not. You don't really get taught that. And the fact that Ben takes so much pride in that skill, it's seriously tremendous to me. And I find myself being engaged and embracing every moment that he's 1 inch away from his guy. And you can see how much the other player is getting frustrated. And he's dribbling in circles, going back towards the half-court line, trying to regroup a bit. Trying to figure out, okay, how am I going to break down Ben Simmons? Now, Ben does have flaws. There are some smaller guards. You saw him with De'Aaron Fox, where they get to the basket at will. But tell me a defender who's slowing down De'Aaron Fox. There's not many. I just think it's funny now. It's, hey, here I am going on this praise of Ben. But there's also a section in this episode where I'm going to absolutely annihilate him. And that's what Ben Simmons is. That, I asked you what word defines Dwight Howard. What defines Dwight Howard? Well, how I am describing Ben Simmons' game tonight, that defines who Ben Simmons is. Inconsistent. I don't know how that's going to work, though, because consistency is key. You need to be consistent. What else do you need? Orbit Energy and Power in your life. With over 20 years of experience in the solar industry, Orbit Energy and Power is home to your solar experts in residential and commercial projects. They are dedicated to making sure that your project is completed easily and properly by using high-quality materials and trained professionals to get the job done right. Their solar program eliminates your electric bill completely by offering flexible financing solutions such as $0 down. There's no risk and no need for investment. They also provide water purification systems, backup energy services, battery storage, and more. So check out their information. It's all down below. You know, I talked about how the three-point shooters weren't able to get going. It's crazy that Matisse Thybulle can do this fade away, the end of the shot clock three that looked so smooth, yet the guys who were more accustomed to delivering, they were off, and they were off big time. All right, let's get to the Anytime Hotline. I want to hear what the people had to say.
Yo, what's good, bros? It's Q from VA. I gotta be quick, man. I gotta be clear, too. I'm not in love with what I'm seeing from this team, and I haven't been in love with what I've seen from the beginning. I think that we've made incredible strides. Let me be clear. Embiid is an MVP candidate. But once again, I do not love this half-court offense. Once again, we don't have a creator who can get his shot without having to rely on Joel Embiid every single time down the floor. I don't think that we have guys who are on the par, on the level of championship caliber rotation players yet. We need to bolster our bench. We need another big to stretch the floor. And like I said, we need that 3-level scorer. And we need another backup point guard. This team is very flawed, and I think that it's been flawed from the beginning.
I don't disagree with you. I think you're making very valid points. I'll just counter by saying this. Daryl Morey came into this situation with an abysmal roster with bad fits, right? Al Horford, Josh Richardson. It didn't make sense whatsoever. So to expect him to make a couple moves and everything automatically flow with ease, I don't think that that's fair. I think you need to give Daryl Morey some time to really put his fingerprints on this roster. Now, he needs to make moves this season. He even alluded to being in a must-win now, championship or bust mentality now. So I do anticipate seeing him make roster moves this season. He sees what you see. He sees what I see. I also feel, though, that you got to give him time and to expect all of it to come together and form into a championship caliber team within 1 year when you have to get rid of Al Horford, but what you bring back is a guy that fits better in Danny Green, but he's not that ultimate fix. He can shoot. He spaces the floor. There's defense, but there's flaws involved. You had to bring on Ferguson and Danny Green's expiring contract to get rid of them. Now, once those contracts are off the books, now you can start plucking away and pouncing on guys if you're Daryl Morey to help add to this team to make them more of a legit contender, if that makes sense. You just got to give Morey space. Because I think it's unfair to snap your fingers or expect Daryl Morey to snap his fingers and all of a sudden this team goes from that dysfunctional mess last year to, hey, we're going to go win the NBA title. I think that's unfair to expect that of Daryl Morey. I get why it's frustrating, though, and I think it's very valid to be frustrated. No doubt.
You bet I am pissed with this game. First of all, Doc Rivers. Tell me, what is the point of using Ben Simmons in spurts when he is clearly, arguably the best perimeter defender in the NBA, and you're not putting him on Devin Booker for the second and third quarter? What is the point of putting him on their best player, but then suddenly just taking him off of him? It's mind-boggling.
I agree with you. I agree with you. And he has done this in the past. And just to, look, I always say things, but I look at the other side because I like to be objective throughout and say, well, when they played the Houston Rockets, Danny Green played James Harden for a while. Then they threw Ben Simmons on him, and Ben Simmons really shut him down. But you were able to get by with Danny Green, and it does seem like a common theme that Doc Rivers likes to throw guys on the other team's best players and then wait to throw Ben Simmons on that said player just to give him a different look. You're accustomed to Danny Green for a while, and now you get a 6'10 monster that's willing to bring the heat and willing to bring the intensity, and it really suffocates you as an offensive force, right? So this is something Doc has done. Maybe it changes. Maybe there's adjustments that go on as this team continues to play games. Maybe he realizes, hey, with Devin Booker, that necessarily wasn't the case. Maybe it depends on matchups, depends on each guy. If it's a guard compared to if it's a bigger player, I mean, look, it all depends for sure on the situation. And there's a reason why when it comes down to the NBA playoffs, it's not so much overall team. Sometimes a team might have a better record and better players, but matchup-wise, it's a different feel. The Sixers match up against better teams than others, even if let's say two teams are out there, the Brooklyn Nets and the Milwaukee Bucks. Well, the Sixers match up differently against those guys where you will do different things based off of that matchup. So with Danny Green, Ben Simmons, and whoever they're playing against, maybe Doc Rivers does different things based off of different teams, based off of different personnel on the other side of the floor. This does seem to be a common theme out of the head coach.
Just finished watching the Sixers here. Not to beat a dead horse, not to state the obvious, but Daryl Morey has some work to do. I'm just seeing a lot of dead weight on this team. You've got guys like Danny Green, Seth Curry, Furkan Korkmaz. If their outside shot isn't going in, they're basically useless. They can't guard anybody, and this team just has zero bench. We can talk Bradley Beal, we can talk Zach LaVine, Buddy Hield, but you have got to get a bench. When our bench comes in, it's a mismatch for the other team. They outscore us by 20-plus points, and we just don't have anybody that can get a basket that can put the ball in the hole. So again, maybe these losses are a good thing on this trip. I fully expect Utah to beat them. Daryl Morey, got to get something done.
Daryl does have to get something done, and once again, I do believe that he will, and I'm fully in the mindset of he knows that, right? It's pretty clear, as you mentioned, as the caller before mentioned, as I mentioned, as everyone who watches this show mentions in the comments, and any Sixers fan, they have to make some moves. I just sit in this corner of, while moves need to be made, to expect this to go from last year to this year. It's almost as if it's different, but it's kind of the same. Imagine demanding the Sixers to win it. The Sixers. Imagine demanding the Eagles to win a Super Bowl next year. Is that fair? Is that fair? And I'll change it around a little bit. Let's say Howie Roseman gets fired. Ha ha ha, right? And a new GM comes into place. Is it fair to demand the Eagles to win a championship as soon as that new GM comes into place and has to fix everything that occurred over the last handful of years with poor drafting, with older players, with contracts? No, that wouldn't be fair. So with Daryl, I'm sort of giving him that same leash of, I understand what situation you came in, and I know what's coming off of the books in next year's free agency and all, so you now have more space to play around with. It'll be interesting to see what he does, though.
Two biggest problems with this team right now, bench depth, which is obvious to anyone watching this team right now, especially with Shake Milton out. And one issue that people aren't really talking about is team defense. I know Embiid's a great rim protector and Ben Simmons is a great perimeter defender, but this team's consistently giving up over 110 points a game against teams that they really should be dominating defensively. And overall, they just need to get back on the winning track. In my opinion, this might be overreacting right now. That Jazz game, must-win territory. I know that it's like we're first place in the East still, but you seriously need to get back on the winning track because we've lost 3 of 5 at this point.
I don't think it's must-win territory. It's way too early in the NBA season to say that. If they go 1-3 on a road trip, while it's frustrating and it's not what we want to see, it could be something that benefits this team long term. there are other teams out there that can bang with you. So, hey, if you think you're going to walk all over the place and you're just going to walk through teams, no, you're not. So who knows? So every team goes through these lulls. Every team goes through the highs of the highs, and every team goes through some moments where they wish they could have had it back. And if they do fall to the Utah Jazz, well, I'm going to have a post-game show up where I'll be fired up and heated if they lose. At the end of the day, a 1-3 road trip, that's more of the common outcome than it is the outlier. Teams go on the road, they hit the West Coast, or if they're a West Coast team, they fly to the East Coast, and it maybe isn't their strongest. That is the nature of the beast, so I'm not accepting it just because that's the case. I just don't think it's must-win territory. I think it's okay to go through a losing spot on a schedule because you learn a lot about yourselves. You learn a lot about the flaws. You have to see what changes you need to make. You make that adjustment, and you kind of learn about your team on the fly, and you have to then assess, self-assess, look at the film, adjust. But we'll see. A 2-2 record is a lot different than a 1-3 on this type of West Coast roadie. About the defense, though, I'm not worried about the defense. I'm really not. I think this team is such a weapon defensively. While they might not show it every single night, when things intensify and when it matters, I'm fully investing that they will do it. Like, I'm fully comprehending that they can turn the switch on and off when it comes to those special moments that we need them to come up big at in playoff basketball. I want to finish with this. Mikal Bridges. I hear this all the time, the Mikal Bridges stuff. Oh, Brett Brown, what an idiot. Well, it was Zhaire Smith in a first-round pick, right? You do know that. It wasn't just Zhaire Smith for Mikal Bridges. Mikal Bridges is a nice role player, all right? He's a nice piece. He's a 3-and-D guy. How many 3-and-D guys are in the NBA? Millions. I respect Mikal Bridges. I like Mikal Bridges. If Mikal Bridges was here, I'd be fine with it. Tobias Harris wouldn't be, though. And you can look at the money and be underwhelmed, and I'm fully knowledgeable of the Tobias Harris situation here. You're also in the position that you're in, first place in the Eastern Conference, because of Tobias Harris. This year under Doc Rivers, you're getting a fantastic version of Tobias Harris. I'll take Toby. I would take the situation how it played out 1,000,000 out of 1,000,000 times over not getting Tobias Harris. I'd rather have Tobias Harris and this big contract, which he's overpaid. I still think he's a crucial part to this team. And if this is the version of Tobias Harris that you're going to get, not so much tonight, but bigger picture, what he's been for you this year, hitting it from three, transition catch and shoot threes, from a fourth quarter perspective, helping out Joel Embiid with the scoring late. And defensively, too, Tobias Harris has been upgraded in the defensive department. It's been awesome to watch. He's grown in that area. So I'll take trading Mikal Bridges for Zhaire in that first, because that first helped you get Tobias Harris 1,000,000 out of 1,000,000 times. I think that's more of a I hate Brett Brown thing than it is anybody else for anybody who always goes back to that trade. Let's look at the full picture. You can't look at half of it and not look at the other half. You got Tobias Harris because of it. To put a head coach in a situation where he is now the GM, I mean, it's not a reality. That's a dysfunctional organization is what it is. I'll end it on this note. Some personal news. I am expanding Sports Talk with Brodes, and it will now fall under the umbrella of Brodes Media. Over the next 2 weeks, you will continue to learn and see and hear things that is really developing with Brodes Media. So much behind the scenes has been occurring, and I can't wait to fully make the transition here to Brodes Media. So I have a TikTok now, at Brodes Media. Make sure you go follow me. A Brodes Media Instagram page, at Brodes Media. We're working on the Twitter as well, but for right now, my personal account, at Brodes81, you're going to want to follow me there to learn about the news and to keep up with the news that is happening here with myself in the edition. A Coffee with Brodes, Monday through Friday, starting next week, 9 a.m. to 10 a.m. Twitter, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, Twitch. It will be live streamed there. We hang out, casually talk, and have our cup of coffee. We did Monday, Wednesday, Friday last week. We're now intensifying that. We have so much behind the scenes that's happening. I just want everyone to be aware and to be in position to know. Every Wednesday, there is a Hump Day Giveaway. So every Wednesday, and that's on my Twitter page, at Brodes81. pinned to the top of my profile. Right now, we're giving away a Claude Giroux puck. We have a signed Claude Giroux puck, which is this week, as I kind of just mentioned. We have a Ron Jaworski signed picture upcoming. We have a signed Bernie Perrant picture upcoming. We got a lot that we're going to be giving away to the people. So I just want everyone to be aware of what's happening because I'm truly excited to really make this commitment to Brodes Media. And I have an NHL podcast on the way that will be dropping soon where we have a weekly guest. And that weekly guest is John Gaudreau, Johnny Hockey of the Calgary Flames. He will be joining us weekly to give an update on the Flames. It's an overall NHL League podcast, not so much just a Flyers pod. So if you're interested in the NHL, we have that. I'm telling you, some special items coming your way. So, super pumped up. I really am. All right, thank you guys all so much for listening. I'm not going to lie to you. This is take 2. I did a take 1, and apparently my microphone was all distorted, and things were all messed up, and it was sloppy, choppy. I couldn't fix it, so I was pissed off, punching the table, swinging haymakers at the air, which kind of makes sense considering UFC 258 is on tonight between Usman and Brooks. So, how ironic is that? But I was definitely not happy that went down the way that it did. And now I'm starving and I'm rambling, so it's time to finish this off. Thank you all so much for listening, and I will see you next time.